Did you know that Distractions has its own Twitch channel? You can actually find everything that we're doing and all of our various streamers at twitch.tv/distractionsmedia. Check us out, won't you?
The Fate of Heroes, starring Patrick, Devin, Rob, Tamara, and John as the Game Master.
Welcome back to the Fate of Heroes, and let's start by introducing our players for this week. Let's start by introducing Runa.
I'm Runa, and I'll be playing Emma.
And Devin.
Hi, I'm Devin, and I'll be playing CJ, and maybe Saif.
And maybe Derek, and maybe everybody. And Rob.
Hey guys, I'm Rob, and I play Alex / Grandpa Raspy.
And Webby.
Hey guys, I'm Webby and I play Lincoln Palmer.
And Tamara.
Hi, I'm Tamara and I play Leelui and maybe Jacob.
And maybe
God, am I
Jacob?
the only person who only plays maybe one person?
No, Alex only plays. Well, I mean,
I only play one.
Grandpa Raspy.
He's got two names, but he's
got two names, same
One
person. Yeah, Emma's one person. That's true.
Okay,
yeah.
good. I don't feel so alone now.
Yeah. And we should probably introduce our special guest star for this week. Welcome back, Rob.
Hi guys, I'm Other Rob, also known as Goose, who only plays one character called Trevor Falls. Thank you very much.
Yeah, who has the majority now? Multiple character people.
Nice. All right, so last time, you guys were lost in continental U.S. war between the British and the Americans. Why on earth am I sounding so awkward about that? And you met Thomas Paine, helped him write a little pamphlet, which kind of was important, and gave a little advice to General Washington before you made your escape. As you made your escape, Leelui had her mind pulled, for lack of a better word, and when she got through the portal, she was absent Jacob for the first time in her entire life. The others ended up in an office with what looked to be Derek and Bronwyn, and Saif and CJ were separated as well. And on top of all of that, we went back and saw where Alex and Emma had got to. So Alex, we are back in the city of Petrograd. It is December 1916, and it is probably one of the coldest in the last few years. And there is a lot of demonstrations and shouting and frustrated people in various locations in the city. A lot of people who were soldiers in the army who were injured in the battles that have gone on over the last few years. Their families and such are in the streets, and there's a lot of violence going on. And meanwhile, the Tsar and Tsarina are very much oblivious to the whole thing. And they're convinced that they can still win the war at this point. You have been called to come to a meeting with them at the palace. Emma, you can go with him as you want, as you're kind of considered to be an important influence on I was going to say Stalin, but on Rasputin. And in fact, some credit you for having modified his behavior, because over the last couple of years, one of Rasputin's reputations for being a bit of a playboy has lessened, and they figure it's because of you.
Oh, well, probably not, but okay.
Nice.
He also would not have been as pro-war as he was previously.
Probably, yeah. Maybe, just a maybe. And so there's a lot of, people are noticing changes, and they're giving credit to you for that, at least amongst those that actually know who Rasputin is, instead of, the general populace. But you definitely, if you go out on your own, you aren't targeted by anyone, but you can definitely hear a lot of people blaming Rasputin for influencing the Tsar and Tsarina and to getting into the war in the first place.
Okay.
So with that said, as I said, Rasputin, you've been invited to a meeting.
Okie dokie. I shall go, and if Emma wants to come, she's welcome to come.
Yeah, I'll tag along.
Okay. At the meeting is a young man who you know as Felix Yusupov. He's a crown prince, or not crown prince, he's a prince in the Romanovs, and he's married to his cousin Irina, who you've met a couple of times. She's the niece of the Tsar. The Tsar has, and effectively at the meeting there is a bunch of people kind of having a war discussion. The crown prince is there, the Tsar Nicholas is there, there's a few of his advisors, and one of the princes that's sort of in charge of the military is going over some of the recent reports and basically saying how they had lost a battle not long before that, and a lot of people are blaming him for losing the battle and kind of where things are going at the moment. And as you enter, the Tsar looks up at you and says, "Ah, Rasputin, my friend, it is good to see you."
It is good to see you as well, Nicholas.
The people tell me that we are losing. What is your take on this situation?
The people are very frustrated that there is no progress and that the war is taking such a toll. We may want to think about at least halting, talking peace. If we do not have the support of the people, we will lose.
You want to make peace with the Germans who have taken our territory and killed our men and women.
I do not want to make peace with them, but it may be a necessity. The other alternative is to lose completely. If we negotiate while we are still strong, we have a better chance of getting things we want.
He looks at you at that and he says, "That's what these people," and he looks at his surrounding advisors and says, "That's what they've been saying. I'm not convinced. I think we just have to motivate the people and get them in their patriotic duty, and I think we will win. We are strong, we are Russia, and they are weak Westerners. We can win this war still. We just need to be more diligent and willing to press forward." And he looks at his advisors, and they all kind of... You immediately get the impression that basically he's the only one that believes this at this point. Most everybody else is convinced that they are losing. Most of their last offensives, while some were successful, fighting the Germans has been pretty much a losing proposition. They've been holding against them in a lot of areas, but all the area that Russia had captured to start the war is pretty much gone at this stage. They've been pushed way back into what would now be called the Ukraine and into the northern areas of like Latvia and that kind of vicinity. So they're not in good shape at this stage and are on the brink of losing. And in the midst of all that, the negativity is definitely strong even amongst the general staff. but you can tell that the Tsar has convinced himself that regardless of that, he thinks they still can win.
So Alex kind of sighs to himself, and he side glances at Emma, and he kind of thinks, oh God, we can't change history. It's already said and done. So out loud he says, "You are the Tsar, Nicholas. Doubtless you are right. In what way can I help?"
And he looks at him and says, "I think you giving your blessing to as the new recruits head east, it will help motivate them to their patriotic duty. Will you do this for me?"
"Of course I will, my friend. Take me to them."
"Excellent. I will have Prince Yusupov escort you." And the prince nods at the Tsar, looks over at you, and says, "After you, father."
And I will start walking.
Okay, so he takes you out of the palace to there's a what normally would be a lot different setup to this city, where the palace would have sort of an open square which was kind of kept away from the public except for as tourists and that kind of thing. Now has an entire army camp in the middle of it, and this group of basically is an intimidation factor to the public to keep them away from trying to cause trouble. And they gather the troops together, and you can see that a lot of these men are older or very young. There's not a lot of like mid-20s, early 30s era people. And a lot of them are not exactly well shaven or well dressed, and it's a pretty ragtag bunch, basically. And Yusupov looks at him and says, "Here you go, father. Here's your troops to address." And he kind of smiles, a little smirk.
I'll roll my eyes at him like, yeah, I get it. I get it. But then I'll kind of do the whole, may God be with you. Your strength is the strength of the empire. Blah blah blah. All that.
You can do it. We have faith in you. Yes.
You will not be killed to a man. I promise.
It's totally not a losing battle in World War I. No problem. So you kind of do the rah-rah stuff. There's a little bit of a cheer, but you can tell pretty much everybody knows what's coming. Everybody knows what's going on. It's, even in countries like Russia at this point where, the news is very much hidden from the general populace, it's still gotten back to them. Obviously, the amount of dead, the destruction, the basic general fact that there's a lot of injured men that are coming back from the front, and they're not hiding what's going on. And on top of that, you have people coming back to Russia who are in other countries who are now trying to influence people, like one of them, of course, being Lenin, who has arrived with his group to sort of influence the population to kind of get them motivated to revolt. And so there's a lot of propaganda flying on all sides at this point. And as much as the government tries to hide it, it's pretty obvious to everybody what's going on. Mm-hmm. And at this point, Leelui, you are wandering through the streets of this particular city. Like I said earlier, the people look very, it's a more modern area. There are old cars around, but there's maybe one or two instead of like hundreds or thousands. And you can see that people are definitely thin. They have lost a lot of weight. In some cases, they look very malnutritioned. And there are lineups for food around various centers that the government is running. And you can tell by the flags and that it looks like you are in Russia.
Okay. Well, first of all, Leelui wouldn't know the difference between any flag.
Mm-hmm.
But what language are they speaking? Which would be Russian, so okay. We'll go off of that.
Sure, except for you, it all sounds English.
Yeah, with the
Well,
dabble
but she
fish thingy.
would know some Russian.
Yeah, you would. You'd be able to read the signs. That would be the big giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it wouldn't be, because they would literally sound like they're speaking English to you, no matter what language they're speaking at the moment.
Yeah, because like I said, flags mean nothing to
Mhm.
Leelui.
Fair enough.
Okay, well, she's just wandering around, I guess, calling out the other guys' names, trying to figure out where everyone went.
Okay. As you're calling out names, one of a man who's wearing what looks to be a soldier's uniform, but it's a ragged soldier's uniform. It's frayed at the edges, like the shoulders are ripped and torn. He's got a raggedy shirt underneath rather than a military uniform, and who's got a grizzly beard. He's got long hair, but generally he looks more like a homeless person than he does like a military person, and he doesn't even have a gun. And he sees you looking around. He says, "Miss, can I help you?"
Have you seen Alex? Or CJ? Or Lincoln? Or a sheep?
Sheep? If there was a sheep in this city, it'd be eaten by now.
Oh dear.
There is. I don't know who you were referring to. Can I take you to somewhere, ma'am? Maybe the embassy or something, or the government places? Maybe to the army center? Maybe they know where your friend is. I assume they must be in the military.
Have you seen my brother Jacob?
I'm afraid not, ma'am. At least not that I know. If
He'd
he looks
stand
like you.
out a lot.
In this community, you stand out quite a bit, my lady.
Yeah, well, yeah. What year is it?
It's 1916, ma'am.
Oh, poop. You wouldn't happen to know where Rasputin is, would you?
And you see him hawk a loogie on the ground. He just... Rasputin?
Oh,
That
dear.
scum? Yes, I know where he is. He's near the palace. Why would you want him?
Can you point me in his direction?
You want to kill him? I will help you myself.
Sure.
Sure. He says, "Here," and he hands you a pamphlet, and you can see writings of Lenin on it, talking about the proletariat and the workers, and he says, "This is where we get our power from. Power of the people against these scumbags who have taken from us everything and put us in this war for no reason. Rasputin is as devilish as they come, so you are more than welcome to join us."
Oh, poop. Lulu's kind of lost at this point because she's used to like Jacob's voice and all the voices he hears rattling around in her head, and it's very quiet right now, and she doesn't know what to do with that.
She's like, "Jacob, what should we..." Oh, right.
Yeah, let's head on that away. Just 1 second, and she's gonna duck down an alley real quick.
Okay.
And she's gonna make herself draw herself a really big loose coat because A, she's cold, and B, she has a feeling maybe she shouldn't stand out right now.
Probably a good idea.
And then she comes back out and she's like, "Okay, lead the way."
And he looks at you and says, "You're better prepared. Good on you. It is freezing outside."
Yeah, you have no idea.
And he starts to walk off, and he says, he takes you towards the center of the city, and you basically have to walk more or less about 2 miles past a bunch of army troops, and you can tell that there is a lot of people who are being, like, there's a lot of military presence, and they're kind of on any critical corner of the town or the city, they're kind of patrolling. So you would figure out pretty quickly that things are, it is ugly for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he takes you to the edge of an area that's marked off with guards and things, and he says, if you go beyond that wall, you head towards where that... And he stops himself and he says, my apologies, ma'am. That is where that scum is. If you want to get him, I will give you the knife myself. And he hands you a small dagger, and he says, good luck to you, and may the proletariat protect you.
Yeah, thanks. And she's gonna tuck it in a pocket and... Okay, you have a good day now. Might be a good idea to not be in the area.
He says, I will make my escape, but I will report back to my senior people what has happened.
You do that. Yeah. Oh boy.
So now you're faced with, there's a guard at this gate. It is definitely like a walled community away from the rest of the world. And there's definitely military people all over the place.
Okay, are they going to try and stop me when I try to go through?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay.
As you walk towards the gate, they're standing there, and there's one guard who looks at you and says, what is your business here?
I'm here to see my grandpa.
Your grandfather? Who's that?
Rasputin.
Rasputin has a grandchild?
Sort of. Just tell him Leelui's out here.
He turns and looks at the other guard. He says, Vasily, go see if Rasputin knows anything about a granddaughter.
Make sure you say Leelui.
And
Hello.
you can see there's a look of disgust on their face, and he's like, I will do. And he walks away. And about 5 minutes later, Emma, you hear a knock at the door.
Okay, go get the door.
There is a young man there. You know he's one of the guards at the gates. And he looks and he says, is your brother home? There's someone claiming to be Leelui, his granddaughter.
Leelui's here?
Now, Emma will know who Leelui is.
Okay, I'm gonna get excited about the mention of Leelui's name, and then I'm gonna tell them that Rasputin's still at the thing with the soldiers, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell them that Rasputin's out, but I'm gonna ask him to let Leelui in.
Okay, they said, will you accompany us to the gate, please?
Absolutely.
And they take you back to the gate. As you walk towards the gate, you see a young lady. How about, Leelui, you describe yourself to Emma?
Well,
Because I don't know what you're wearing currently. You kind of...
basically, she's wearing this really big, oversized coat that actually kind of blends in with the surroundings for once.
It's kind of drab, in other words.
Yeah, she's just sort of huddled into it, sort of looking around, looking very lost. And you can see bits of brightly colored hair peeking out from under the hood. Otherwise, she's just very much huddled down. Occasionally, you can see a few of her tattoos peeking up around her neck as they seem to be crawling around more frantically than usual. But only if you're really looking for it.
And unlike every other time Leelui's been seen by someone, she only has 2 brown eyes. Which wouldn't make sense to Emma, but normally she has 1 green and 1 blue. Or 1 brown.
Yep. So, yep. She just looks like basically a lost, dowdy, brown-eyed girl.
A bit confused. So Emma knows who you are. You don't know who she is. You've never seen her before.
No.
So the guard walks you up to Leelui. Emma?
I'm going to sigh, kind of relieved to see her, but I'm trying to keep my composure because we're trying to blend in here. So I'm going to introduce myself as Rasputin's sister for now until I can get her into a private area.
Alenia. Yes.
But Grumpet
I'm
doesn't have a sister.
I'm going to kind of like wink at you, like just
go with it.
Who are you?
I know a few of your friends. I'll explain things in a moment.
The guard looks at you and says, are you okay watching her? It's your responsibility if she causes anything. Looking at Emma.
Yes.
Leelui looks like she's going to ask somebody a question and then just sort of pauses because it was obvious that she wasn't going to ask any of them. And I was like, right.
Okay. So with that, Emma obviously escorts you back to the house. The house that you go back to looks more like a mansion. It is a fairly large house. It is near the palace, but it's not on the palace grounds as such. But it is well guarded. There has been stains on the front door where things have been thrown at it. There was a bullet hole in one of the corners of one of the doors. But otherwise, it's fairly well maintained and kept up. And as you enter, you can see that there's a lot more food and it's a lot more pleasant than the surrounding area.
Leelui's going to turn to Emma and go, so I see he's made the usual snafu of things.
Yeah, we've been doing our best. Kind of a long story.
I've probably heard most of it.
Maybe, but not since we arrived at Russia. Here, have a seat. I'll explain everything.
Okay. Any idea where my brother got to?
Emma would have no idea who your brother is, to be clear.
She doesn't know that.
No, I know she doesn't know that. I'm just answering for Emma because Emma might not know that.
Okay, then never mind.
Haven't I met? No.
Nope.
No.
Well, yeah, you know who Jacob is.
Yeah.
That's right. You have met him. My apologies. I got that wrong.
Interacted with him.
Yeah.
That's how I know that she's a risk.
Probably, yes.
Jacob warned you about me? Jacob warned you about me?
Yeah, he said you were crazy.
I am so pushing him through another portal.
So, yeah. So basically, Jacob kind of claimed you were a little risky, a little crazy.
It's because he was in my head.
Not when Emma met him.
She's a little irate now, you can tell.
Yes.
So, Emma kind of gives you the backstory of how they got there. The fact that she was supposed to come and find Alex and bring him back to Russia in the first place, but ended up showing up in Russia and meeting the original Rasputin in the process. And how they brought basically the story of Rasputin being stabbed, the fact that he was dying, so they stuck him in a portal, and then Alex took on the role of Rasputin, and the fact that they then went back to Petrograd and have been in Petrograd ever since, basically keeping track of things and trying to mitigate as much as possible any influence they'd have on the history of the place.
So, the story Grandpa Raspi used to tell was mostly bull hockey. This shouldn't surprise
Well,
me.
it's changing.
Or it's changing, yes.
Or
That's
it's-
definitely an option.
Yeah, well, this is Grandpa Raspi, so I'm leaning towards bull hockey.
Have you seen the others you were traveling with?
I wouldn't be here if I had.
I'm a little disappointed by that news, and I look down kind of sadly and nod, and I'm like, all right, well, we still need to find everyone else then.
Well, they went through the portal before I did. And the portal went to where I landed, so I don't know.
So with that, let's go back to Alex, shall we? While you guys are puzzling all that over, you've given your blessing to the troops, as it were. The Colonel Yusupov, or Colonel, the Prince Yusupov, turns to you as you're about to leave, and he says, Rasputin, Father.
Yes.
Would you come to my study tonight for after dinner discussion?
I would be delighted.
Yes, I'm sure you would. I know my wife will be delighted to meet you as well. Your reputation, of course, as a healer precedes you.
And he kind of like nods and gives like a half bow. You do me honor, sir.
He smiles at that and says, I look forward to it. I will have a coach pick you up this evening. About 9 o'clock.
I will be waiting with the bells on.
He smiles at that and says, I look forward to it and dealing with the fate of Russia. And he kind of mutters that one under his breath and walks away.
Puffed up Popinjay.
Nice.
I mutter under my breath.
So you wander off, I assume, at that point. Do you head back to your house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As you enter into the home, Leelui and Emma are sitting in the drawing room, talking as you walk in.
Leelui! He runs over to hug her if she lets him.
She backs up and glares at you.
What's wrong? It's been so long, Leelui.
It's been a couple of hours. And your stories were bull hockey.
At that, he pauses and he looks at Emma. It's only been a couple of hours since you've seen me last.
Yeah.
We've been here for over 2 years, Leelui.
Poop.
And what do you mean my stories are bull hockey? I haven't seen you to tell you any stories.
She's gonna sort of tip her head at him and look at him like, hello.
Oh, right. Well, I suppose, I don't know if Emma's told you, but the biggest thing is that I'm not the really real Rasputin. He's actually my great-great-grandfather.
That doesn't surprise me. So, who yanked Jacob out of my head?
To be honest, it was probably either me or the real Rasputin.
Why?
I have no idea.
Where is he? And how did he get a body? How? What the
Leelui, at this point in...
ever-loving bleep is going on here?
I kind of grab her and shake her a little bit. Leelui, I am just Alex at this point. I do not know what my future self or the original Rasputin are doing. Don't ask me. I don't know.
I'm not the one that's supposed to get confused by this.
So I kind of look at her eyes. I did see Jacob for like a few seconds. He does have his own body. It must be now that he splits from you.
That he spits on me? Spits on me? What?
Splits from you.
Your accent is awful, Grandpa. Alex. Whatever.
He kind of just shakes his head. I know. I've been trying to blend in, Leelui.
It's too quiet in my head. I can't think straight.
That sentence makes my brain hurt. Do you want some food? We're going to go give the rest of it to the poor later. I've been trying to undo the things that the real Rasputin got us into, but it's too late for that kind of thing. I'm just trying to make small changes in any way I can. But I'm pretty sure they're planning to poison me tonight, so I may need you to draw that dead body. And I kind of clap her on the shoulder.
I'm sure at this point Emma's like, what?
She's just observing and listening.
Can't we just find everybody and leave?
Are they here?
I don't know. They went through the portal ahead of me. And then they weren't there.
Well, the simpler answer is no. Well, we have to leave the dead body where it belongs so that everyone thinks Rasputin's dead.
Crap, I can't even make a...
That should be soon, though, if it's any consolation.
Yeah, but, I mean, we could have left a Jacob body behind, but Jacob's not here, so I can't put a person... Never mind, just... I can't think straight! I'm blaming you. This is all your fault.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. What do you blame me for? I haven't done anything yet.
You've been here 2 years. In other words, you've already set everything in motion.
It was set in motion before I got here. I've just been playing my part. Listen, I just tried to talk to Nicholas about surrendering. It ain't gonna happen.
Well, no, because he's an idiot. You told me that many times.
I'm sure I did, and I'm telling you now, for the first time in my view, Nicholas is an idiot.
I love that. That's great.
Did they even land in the same time?
Who?
The others, duh!
I don't know, Leelui. I don't know if they're here. Hold on. And I go to the door, and I open it.
Mm-hmm. And there's 2 guards
They still
nearby.
have Bob, by the way.
Can you men keep a lookout for some associates of mine that may be in the city, have some people search for them, and then I'm going to describe CJ and Lincoln.
And Bob.
And Bob.
And the sheep.
I'll just say, and they have a sheep with them.
They have a sheep in this city. They won't have it long, Father.
I know, but that might
But
be...
they smile and nod and say, "Yes, Father, we will have people looking for them."
Thank you. And I'll close the door and go back. There. I've got people looking for them. Calm down. I mean, did Jacob say anything when he left, or was he just gone?
I don't know, my brain went blah, and then he was blimp.
Blah, and then he went.
Okay, then.
I don't know. He just was just not there anymore. I don't know. I just popped through the portal. The world went bloogie. Jacob was gone.
Well, it sounds like he's probably got his own body now. At least I hope so.
Well, he must, because right before I went through the portal, I drew another portal, and he popped out. Was a total jerk, so I pushed him back in, so he popped out another portal up on top of the hill. And then I opened this portal, popped through, and everybody else disappeared, and he went blip.
Well, I mean, maybe that's where he got the idea. He saw himself as a separate person and then decided, hey, let's do that now, as you were going through the portal.
How could he do that? His
Maybe
only ability
future
is to
Jacob did it.
read minds.
Maybe future Jacob made past Jacob a body at that point because he was mad at you.
But how could he? He just reads minds. And how did he make a portal? Unless I'm messing with myself. In which case, I'm very mad at my future self.
I don't know. I mean, are you sure
Or
the
maybe it's you.
portal-making powers were yours?
I bet
and
it's
not
you.
his?
I bet it's you.
Yeah, well, I've blamed myself for stuff as well.
Future
But
you.
it turns out some of it wasn't true. Some of it was the real Rasputin.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm sure no one else is confused at this point either.
I imagine Emma's just sitting there going, nah.
I don't know what's going on.
So you've met Emma. She was here to get us back to the future, but we're stuck now.
I was a little useless. It's okay.
Even I've never been stuck for 2 years. No offense, Emma. I mean,
Yeah, they gave me a device that worked for like 24 hours, and I didn't find him in time. So here we are.
Well, she did. She did find me in time, but I was stabbed and had to be sewn up. So.
Did Uncle Trevor make that device for you?
I don't know who made it.
Oh.
Get this, Leelui. Apparently, in the present, and I use quotation marks, it's now 5 years has passed, even though we haven't been gone for 5 years.
Oh. Well, that makes no difference to me.
Close to 5 years, and I look back at Emma.
I mean,
Good night for you. You're still at about a little over 1.
wait, what? Now I'm really confused.
I think Rasputin's confusing himself at this point. So as you guys muddle along trying to figure out what to do and what happened and who to blame, time marches on. Before we get to the evening, is there anything you three would like to do?
Can Leelui try and draw some more portals?
Mm-hmm. She can.
They're not going to work, are they?
You draw one portal, and you see some hands pull a person through the portal and dump him in front of you, and then that portal disappears. This man is very much a twin of Alex, except for he has kind of a little bit more gray in his beard, and he is holding his stomach.
Oops.
It's great grandpa.
And the individual looks at you, looks down at his stomach, and says, "Oh, it's you.
Oh.
Hello."
Hi.
He's just going to draw another portal underneath him.
He rolls away from it as you try to undm me. And he stands up looking like he's healed himself. And he looks over at Emma and kind of gives a little nod and says, "Hello again, my dear. It is good to see you."
I didn't do it. And she leaves the room.
Good to see you not dead.
And he looks over at Alex and says, "Hello, grandson. How are you?"
I'm doing okay. I've been trying to be you for 2 years, and people aren't that suspicious, so I guess I'm doing okay.
He smiles and says, "From my point of view, you have done excellent. Everything that has gone on has been your plan in the end of the day." And he smiles.
I'm just going to sigh. Of course it has.
"And how are you treating your granddaughter?"
I've been trying to treat her fine. As for my future self, I think he's pissing her off.
Well, yes. His plans and his understanding of things are very different than us. All I know is he came to me before you arrived and told me that my life was going to end soon. And I needed your help to get there properly. So maybe we can work something out.
Well, I mean, in history, Rasputin is supposed to die soon. You could always avoid that fate, however.
That sounds messy.
Yeah.
Look, I'm already supposed to be dead. That woman who stabbed me should have killed me. I don't think I can avoid it anymore. I've been on this earth for 200 years. I think it's been a good life. But, grandson, come with me.
All right.
He puts his arm around you. And he says, "The next couple of hours are going to be rough. But I want you to do me a favor, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you remember this. And don't let me down. Okay?
Okay.
Because, honestly, you are going to be amazing if what your future self has mentioned.
He starts to laugh. That I would take what my future self said with a grain of salt, to be honest.
He smiles mischievously and says, I often do. And he nods at you and says, what I would suggest is you go to this meeting that you are supposed to be going to.
Okay.
And then have your friends get me inside. At least this is what I've been told to tell you. At least the initial part of the meeting, I would just be confused and unable to answer any of the questions that they have. But after that, you should be able to whisk me away into this situation. And he smiles and says, I know you do. I have confidence in you. It is good to see that my descendants are worthy people.
So by the way, they're going to try and poison you, but that's not how you die. So feel free to avoid it or heal yourself.
He smiles and says, from what I understand, my friend, it's you that will be poisoned, not me.
Oh, well,
but
that's still not going to happen.
He smiles and says, indeed. Go carefully. Don't trust Yusupov. He's an evil man.
Oh, I know.
And his conspirators will definitely cause trouble. But that's all I know. I've not been told anything beyond this point other than what your grandfather wanted me to know. Or your older self wanted me to know, I should say.
Mm. Well, I must say it was nice to meet you.
Indeed.
So it's good to know where you come from.
He smiles at that and he says, I will be adding my collective conscience soon, I am sure. But in future we will maybe get another opportunity to talk and you can tell me more about all of this. Or have you already? And he smiles at that. And he ends up walking out of the room and he says, I think I'm going to go lay down for a bit.
All right. I guess I will go prepare for the meeting.
Okay.
As I'm walking away, I yell, oh yeah, Leelui, I forgot to tell you, we're part Anua.
Duh!
And so you are called away to the meeting at about... they're a little late getting to you. You end up going there at about 11 o'clock instead of 9 by the time they finally get to you. You are brought down to a basement room, and I will bring you to there right now. And Yusupov is sitting at a table, and in front he says, we need to talk about the future of Russia. We can't trust the Tsar anymore. He's gone crazy.
I will agree that he's a little misguided, but he is the Tsar.
Look, I am convinced that we will lose everything. And he he stands up, he says, can I get you some food?
No food, but I could use a drink.
And he opens up a bottle of wine, which is sitting on a desk, and hands you a glass.
He'll nod. Thank you. I'm very parched. And then I'm going to stop time, pour the wine into one of the potted plants, and then go back to see, and then make it look like I was drinking it.
Okay. He says, oh, you are very thirsty. Would you like another?
Certainly.
And he pours another one for you.
So I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to pour it like in this urn here, so later he finds it and realizes what happened. And then I'm going to go back and restart time again.
Okay. All right. And he sits down across from you and watches you. And waits. And waits. And just kind of holds a bit of small talk for a bit. And then he stands up and he says, I need to go use the washroom. I will be right back. Is there anything I can get for you while I'm upstairs?
Oh, no, nothing for me. Just leave the wine.
Indeed. Here, have all you want.
Thank you.
And he, you can see him kind of mutter under his breath as he walks away. As he does, Leelui. Back at the other house, the older Rasputin comes to talk to you. And he says, hello, my dear. How are you?
She's going to glare at him and turn her back on him.
He says, I know this is difficult. I am not exactly your grandfather, but I need your help.
Did you take Jacob out of my head?
I have nothing to do with that, madam. I am just a simple Russian laborer.
She's going to turn around and just roll her eyes at you at that one.
And he smiles and he says, it's a good try. It worked on a lot of women, let me tell you that.
She's going to give you another look at that one.
He nods and he says, no, I had nothing to do with your brother. Although, last I saw of him, he looked to be in very good shape.
Everyone keeps saying that.
Indeed. But, yes, we need to get to your grandfather before something untoward happens.
Which one?
Your Alex.
And how do you propose we do that?
Well, my dear, you're the one that can draw portals, not me.
Yeah, because nobody's going to notice that.
If we sneak into the basement, I'm sure they won't. We have a window of opportunity.
What's this we business?
Well, someone has to stay behind when you get him out.
I hate you all.
He smiles and he goes, I understand. This has been a little confusing to me as well, to be honest.
You're the one that started it.
He kind of nods and says, probably. It sounds like me.
Okay, so how do we get in the basement? Or what basement, of where, and why, and when, and whatever.
He says, well, come with me. We will, what we'll do is we'll go to the house, and we can draw the tunnel through the wall. You should be able to do that, correct?
Yeah.
So we will go to the palace. And he walks out of the room and he goes to where Emma is and says, you should probably join us, madame.
Okay.
And then he says, he puts on a coat and kind of covers his face with a big hood, and then kind of leans out and, using a bit of a different voice, calls for a coach to come. And about 20 minutes later, a coach shows up and he says, ladies, if you would like to join me, we will get to the palace.
Lilo's just going to look over at Emma. You're pretty blasé about all this.
I've been here for 2 years.
Okay.
I'm going to shrug and follow him.
Lilo's going to stomp after like a petulant toddler.
You guys take the carriage to a palace, which is on the far side of the enclosed gate. At the edge of the palace is a window which leads to the basement. There are guards around, but in this area there isn't. It's kind of quiet, and Rasputin turns to you, Leelui, and says, this is where I would draw the gate, if you would, please.
No guarantee it's going to go where you want it to.
Nothing ever goes the way it wants to, my dear. If there's nothing else I've learned in this life, that is the most truth I can actually ever say.
Okay.
He pats you on the shoulder and says, "I'm sure you will come to understand at some point as well."
Well, she's like, okay. She draws a door instead because she thinks it's a little safer than drawing just a general portal.
Right? Yeah. Fair enough.
And then she sort of cracks it open and peeks through.
Okay. As you do, over in the room, Yusupov has come back. He tells you, Alex, he says, "My friend, I think you should have a look at this cross over here."
You want me to look at the cross?
Indeed.
By the way, the wine is completely empty. I poured it all in the potted plants.
The cross on the wall is a little askew, and he says, "Yes, Father, I dare not touch it. It's bad luck."
I'm gonna narrow my eyes at him, like, I don't remember exactly what happens at this place in history. I'm like, all right. And I start walking towards the cross.
And he says, as you do, he says, "I hope you had a good look at it, because it's the last thing you will ever see." And
I will immediately stop time.
right. His gun is out. There is a bullet coming out of the gun. It is aimed straight at your stomach.
Oh, goody. Well, I will sidestep around that and kind of just look around, because this is, I'm assuming Rasputin is planning to show up at some point, and I will wait.
Okay. Are you going to show like you got hit?
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. No, I didn't even think of that. So, yeah, I will walk around the bullet so that it's then behind me. Like, I'll let time go slow so that I can, so that it almost touches me, and then I'm going to stop time, walk around it, so that it, like, hits the wall or chair or whatever. And then I'll be like, oh, you got me. Oh, my God.
The
like,
worst fake death ever.
Yeah. It's so bad because he's partly laughing.
He's like, "Oh,
I was not expecting this at all. Oh."
Yusupov smiles at that. "Die, you scum. You have ruined us long enough." And he walks out and leaves you to, in quotes, die on the floor. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. Roll clever, please. Actually, I should roll clever for him, too.
4. Yes, so my divine inspiration from the GM came in at the right time.
He wanders off. You see him leave. As you do, a door opens up on the wall beside you, and out pops Leelui, Emma, and Rasputin.
Hey. Yeah, you've just been shot, by the way.
Yes, I look worse for wear, I can see.
Yeah, poisoned and shot, and yet you'll still be walking around. They're going to find you very impressive.
He looks at you and says, "I think you better shoot me." Then he pulls out a gun. He says, "Even though you didn't get hit, I did."
Aren't they going to hear the extra gunshots?
As it turns out, this place has been soundproofed because they didn't want people to hear the screams.
Well, that's disturbing.
Indeed, but they were very prepared.
They don't like you much.
They never do.
Alex has gone extremely pale, and he's looking down at the gun. I have to be the one to shoot you?
Someone has to, and do you want these two ladies to do it?
Leelui reaches across and takes the gun out of his hand.
Okay.
I'll do
Roll
it.
your flashy. Roll your flashy.
Leelui is not in a good mood right now.
It works very well. You fire the gun straight at him, and you see him grimace and go, "Oh!"
I imagine all this happened like within a second. Like there was no pause. Like I'm the one that has to shoot you. I'll do it. Like, bang.
Yep, exactly. Rasputin looks at you and says, "Time for you to get out of here before they get back."
Wait, weren't you shot multiple times? She shoots him twice more.
And he's like, "Yes, but I have to live, you silly woman."
You
for
heal.
this moment. I guess.
Leelui, stop shooting your great-great-great-great-grandfather.
He deserves
I
it.
take the gun back.
You did this to me.
Leelui, she's got to blame someone, and she's chosen him.
Pent up rage just comes out.
At least it's not Lincoln. At least she didn't have a gun when she blamed Lincoln last time.
Rasputin sits at the spot and he kind of smiles and he says, "Take good care of yourselves. Get out of here."
I'm gonna give him a hug before we go and say, "Thank you for everything, Grandpa."
He smiles and says, "No, thank you. It is good to know that it isn't all in vain, and you are able to stop the Nurgle."
He's gonna go, okay, and just gonna walk towards the door and flip him the forks as she goes. Just walk out.
I just look. I'm like, I guess that's my cue because she will leave me here if I don't go.
He nods and says, "It's best if you get out now before any more things come. I'm sure your Zapov will be back."
So I will nod and I will go through the portal. I'll make sure Emma goes through first and then I will go.
Okay.
Because I don't want her to be like, "Well, Emma came with me. I'm going to close the portal," but it's me and she closes it on Emma. So
And Emma's just standing there. "Oh, great! I'm stuck in the past by my heroes. Wonderful."
Yeah, I'm gonna sadly wander through the portal. I don't take death well.
Fair enough.
Not the person you thought I was, am I?
Never meet your heroes. It ruins your
without Jacob, you're way more cautious and way more bloodthirsty.
It's too quiet in her head. It's making her crazy.
Crazier, I would argue. Okay, so you step through the portal, and as you do, you hear Yusupov come back in, and he looks and he's like, "How can you be alive?" And he fires another round at him. And you see Rasputin fall to the ground with a hole in his head.
Well, he probably healed 2 of those shots because he wouldn't be shot 3 times.
Fair enough, yeah. And so with that, you come through the portal. You are... Okay. So as you do, you come into... And you guys will step through a portal. As you do, it's probably about, I'd say, maybe half a minute after you 3 walk through, Lincoln, when you hear a portal open up behind you, and you see Leelui, Alex, looking very different, wearing a priest's robe, and a young lady that both you and CJ have seen before, who is only ever known as Ghost Girl to you. Although you know her as Emma because you've met her later in history.
Yeah, that's the one that I met at the pizza shop that I was afraid was going to arrest me.
Yeah, although she's a lot younger than she was then.
Okay. I'm going to look over. I'm going to say, "Leelui, father."
Father.
Emma.
Yeah. I guess I'm not talking for Emma this time, so go ahead, Emma.
Well, she waves.
I'm innocent, just so you know. Remember that.
I will keep that in mind. Thanks.
Yeah, good thing. If you're not innocent, Leelui will just shoot you dead.
Accurate.
You're lucky I didn't have a gun when I fell out of the sky.
You can see Alex's robes are covered in blood, by the way.
The priest has been busy. Okay.
Yeah, it's a long story. So Leelui, how long has it been since you last saw Leelui?
Like a minute and a half ago.
Okay. So, yeah, we're not that further down the line. Although it's been 2 years for me and Emma. We were trapped in Russia for 2 years. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, it's been like less than a day since we saw you last.
Well, that's just fine.
Through another door walks Trevor.
Trevor! I'm going to run up and give him a hug.
Ah, finally.
You see Lincoln with a sheep, basically, that he's got on a lead.
I expect nothing less nowadays.
Fair enough.
Trevor, this is Bob. Bob, this is Trevor. The guy that I've told you so much about.
I'm assuming you said that to the sheep?
Yes.
Okay.
Derek looks over and says, Mr. President,
Whoa. What?
What?
Of YBC Labs. Grats. They give
Simmer!
him a big hug. He steps back. In fact, he steps all the way back and sits back down.
You were saying?
Zoe told me to tell you to give her a call when you hear from these people.
All right. I will call Zoe.
Okay. So on a screen sort of behind where Derek's sitting off to the left over by, well, I guess more to the right between him and Trevor, there's a monitor which comes on and you see Zoe's face in it. When she sees, she kind of projects herself from it as a hologram. And when she sees Lincoln, you can see tears kind of rolling out of her eyes. And she says, "You're back. You're finally back."
Lincoln just nods because he's afraid to speak.
And she looks absolutely delighted to see you. She is wearing a military uniform at this point. And she steps through the hologram. And is now a full living person standing in the middle of the room. And she looks up at a couple of people and she says, Bronwyn, could you call a couple of my men in? And she says, and Bronwyn walks out, and as she does, you kind of hear her say, "You're needed in here, please, for a moment." And a couple of guards come in that are wearing what looks to be Marine outfits. And she says, "I'm so happy that you're here. And it gives me no pleasure to do this, but Alex, Leelui, you're under arrest for time meddling."
Wait, what?
And as she does, a young lady walks into the room wearing a uniform as well. She's kind of a taller lady. She looks probably, I'd say, about 6 years older than when you last saw her, Lincoln and CJ. But you know who this is. Because you fought with her on one occasion, and she is Veronica from the island.
Oh, yeah.
And she looks at you and smiles and says, "It's good to have you back."
What? Wait, what?
And then she says,
I'm going to look at Zoe and say, "We took great pains to try to not mess anything up in history. What are you talking about?"
"Yeah, about that. It didn't work. Specifically, some very important things have changed." And she kind of tilts her head back to the man sitting in the chair beside her. And she says, "To be honest, you told us what you did. And your brother, Leelui, also mentioned what you did."
You probably lied.
Possibly.
And I'm not marrying
Can't-
Bob.
And she smiles and says, "I don't know who Bob is, but I don't have any authority to make you marry anyone.
I'm not marrying him.
Veronica, would you accompany them to the island, please?
No.
I'm sure Tina
hold on.
will have some things to tell them."
Zoe, you're forgetting one very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You will have to catch us first. Leelui, portal!
And she draws a portal!
John, can I take it? Can I take it, John?
Yeah, go ahead.
As Leelui tries to draw a portal, nothing happens, and Trevor looks at them and says, "You think I wouldn't be prepared for your special powers? You've been breathing in an inoculation gas this entire time."
I kind of shrug. I don't even know what we did that doesn't involve Lincoln and CJ, but I really don't know what you would be prepared for because I'm not prepared for any of this.
When you say that, Trevor, Derek looks over at you. He's like, I don't know. You're the one who came up with a net to beat Birdman, Mr. Smart Guy.
That was over 5 years ago!
It's still a sore point.
Lincoln's going to look at his hand and he's going to try to vibrate it really fast.
Nope.
Where's Jacob?
We'd love to know that. He's gone.
I am
We
gonna
haven't seen him for a long time.
beat him so bad now that I actually can. And you're all lucky I don't have a gun.
Veronica looks at you, Alex, and smiles. And Leelui, when you look at Veronica, she looks kind of familiar.
She's gonna squint. She's gonna look at Alex. She's gonna look at Veronica. She's gonna squint harder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Veronica looks at you and says, I'm sorry. Hello. Would you...
Are you clucking like a chicken?
Yes.
What is happening?
She's clucking like a chicken.
She is, yeah. As you are clucking at her, Zoe walks up to you, Leelui, and she says, I've been advised that I should send you back to where you belong.
Which is where?
Your timeline, my dear.
Which is which one?
The one where, oh, I hate this stuff. And she says, it gives me no pleasure to say this because of the nosebleed that's going to come to Lincoln's face here in a second, but in a timey-wimey sort of way, I have told myself to tell you that you have to come back to the future. That is part of your, assignment wouldn't be the right word, but effectively your punishment doesn't make sense either to me.
She's gonna lean in real close and go, I'm not marrying Bob.
Well, Bob's a sheep, so that would be really wrong.
I was gonna say,
not that Bob. The Bob you named after your sheep. You'll find out in a few years. Or you might be dead. I don't know. I hate you all.
See, Leelui, this is why we're under arrest. Because you're spouting things that haven't happened yet.
And a portal opens up behind you, Leelui. And you see Baba Yaga standing on the other side of it.
She's going to look at Baba Yaga. She's going to squint. She's going to look back at Veronica.
Uh-huh.
She's going to look at Alex.
Yeah, you got it. And Baba Yaga says, it's time to come home, my dear.
I blame all of you. I'm just going to stomp through the portal angrily. And I'm not marrying Bob!
And with that, Leelui disappears. And the rest of you are standing there. Zoe turns to Veronica and says, would you accompany Alex back to the island? I'm sure your father would love to have a conversation with him about all of his adventures. And Veronica smiles and says, yeah, I'd be very curious as well. I am very interested to talk to time travelers. They are cool. And she holds out her arm for you, Alex.
He looks at her arm, and then he reaches into his coat, and he says, here, you better take this if I'm under arrest, with a quotation. And he hands her the gun that shot Rasputin. And then he'll take her other arm.
And Zoe takes the gun from her and rolls her eyes and says, uh-huh, I kind of expected as much. Anyway, I will talk to you about this later, all right? Take good care of him. And Veronica says, I will. And she says, we'll need him later.
And Alex kind of smiles at her and says, we'll talk about it later and in the past and all sorts of different times, I'm sure.
And with that, Veronica escorts you out. And standing in the room still, probably befuddled at this stage, is Saif and CJ. Saif looks over at you, CJ, and says, hey man, thanks. I appreciate your help.
Anytime.
You done good, man. You got us back. And I feel a lot better. But I think I need to go find myself now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But until next time, man. And he does little finger pistols.
He does like confused finger pistols back.
And he says, we'll see you later. See you around, Zoe. And Zoe looks over at him and says, okay. And Bronwyn walks up and she hugs Saif. And she says to him, I missed you. And Saif looks at her and says, it's been a long, strange, weird time. But you'll be seeing me around again, I'm sure. And she smiles and says, I hope so. And he walks out. Zoe walks up to Lincoln at that point and has a huge smile on her face.
Lincoln's just sitting down holding to Bob and staring at like the desk in front of him.
And she looks over at Trevor and says, is it okay for me now to put down my official hat?
Oh, of course. And I wave over, and Olaf Spitza comes in and is directed right in front of Lincoln.
He just looks at it, doesn't move. His eyes just haven't blinked.
And Zoe kneels down in front of him. She looks him in the eyes and says, I'm so grateful you're home. There's been way too much going on. There's too many stories to tell in 5 minutes, but now that you're back, I know we can win. Now that you're back, I feel much better about everything. And I'm sure Ben will be happy to see you too. And she gives you a big squeeze.
He just sits there, holding on to Bob.
And with that, we're going to end this episode. So with that, let me start with Devin. Where can we find you online?
You guys can find me online at DMP_Pookie and on Twitch at PooKilledMe.
And Rob, EdQuest, since I now have to clarify.
You can find me on Twitter at Confessor_X and on Twitch at ConfessorX.
And Goose.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Mingoose.
And Runa.
You can find me on Twitter at GemRuna and on YouTube and Twitch at RunaGem.
And Tamara.
You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram at Dance in the Abyss.
All right. And Webby.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one.
And you can find me at LinsteadDM. You can find everything we do at distractionsmedia.com. You can find Fate of Heroes and what's coming next at Fate of Heroes on Twitter. DM, I should say at the end. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Fate of Heroes. I hope you've all enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back for one more before the season ends. So take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
This has been a Distractions Media production. For more information, you can check out everything we do at distractionsmedia.com.